But in 1971, when the gold window was closed, we knew we entered a new era. It was the fiat dollar standard. Some believed it wouldn't last very long, but there was no prediction on how long it could last. And I'm sure by now you recognize it has ended. In the last year, it was recognized that the dollar reserve standard that the international financial markets were built, that is over. And now it's picking up the pieces and deciding where we're going to go to from here. So there's a lot of scurrying around. There are people like us who are talking about honest money and dealing with the Federal Reserve. At the same time, the internationalists who would like to devise an international fiat currency under the UN or IMF or had SDRs or whatever, they're struggling as well. But the one advantage that we have is we have truth on our side, and we can win this if we pursue it in the proper manner, and I believe we are making some progress. But in 1971, Jim Blanchard was interested in the same things I was interested in. And I didn't know Jim at that particular time, but we must have been on the same mailing list because in September, he started a newsletter. It was called the Gold Newsletter, and he organized the National Committee to Legalize Gold. And, of course, I signed up for that letter, and I have a copy of this here, and I want to show it to you. Some of you here may have seen it or heard about it, but that is Volume 1, Number 1. It's actually on a legal-sized piece of paper, and it was called the Gold Newsletter. It had to be in gold color, and that was in September. Now, he doesn't have a date on the top of this newsletter, but you can figure out rather quickly exactly when it was written. And I want to read the first paragraph of his newsletter in 1971, and it turns out it was in September of 1971. He says, the National Committee to Legalize Gold was organized in early August of this past summer in response to the internal and external monetary dilemma that is occurring in America. A combination of events led us to campaign for congressional bills giving Americans the freedom to own gold, among which are the mounting international monetary crisis and the spiraling cost of government inflation with a resultant depreciation of the fiat dollar, a piece of paper whose last connection with gold via conversion has now been severed. That was and remains a historic event. And Jim really deserves a lot of credit because he knew what was wrong, he knew what should be done at least to take that next step, and the next step was to reverse that edict in 1933 by Roosevelt to take and steal the gold from the American people and make it illegal for the American people to own gold. So he set out as a goal in September. By the end of 1974, gold was legalized for us to once again buy and hold gold. So he knew what he was doing, he knew that truth was on his side, and he pursued it. He became a political activist, and things changed. You were no longer a criminal to own gold. But interestingly enough, even before that, I wasn't a criminal, but I did buy some gold. And the way we bought gold back then was we had to buy numismatic gold. But numismatic gold back then, you had to have a date of 1947 or earlier. But, our friends to the south knew what to do because they were still minting gold coins. So all they did was they made a Mexican 50 peso, and they put on the date 1947. So we were able to buy those Mexican 50 pesos, which is, a matter of fact, a very beautiful coin, and that was the way we got around it. Now, I know this is an investment conference, and you've heard all the experts. You've heard people tell you what to buy and what to sell and how to trade and all kinds of things. But I have to tell you, I was never all that sophisticated and didn't have the time to really get involved in trading. And, when it comes to regular stocks, I think one of the worst advice the average person got over these last several decades was buy and hold, hold forever and watch go down. And for 30 years or 40 years, it might come back up like it did in the Depression. But I took the foolish notion that I was going to also apply that to gold. So I did the foolish thing of every time I had a couple extra dollars, I bought gold and I held it. And by the way, it hasn't done badly by doing that. But I have to confess, though, I had some inside information. I've had this exposure in Washington, so I probably committed a crime by using inside information. I knew what they were doing up there, and I knew the kind of people running the government. But a lot has happened since then, and we have been pursuing, continuing to improve our situation. My title for the talk tonight is Gold, Peace, and Prosperity, and I will be working that in, but I want to emphasize those words in a certain order. It sounds like gold is the most important, peace and prosperity. But in a very deliberate way, I believe it's a lot more than gold, peace, and prosperity. I believe the issue that we have to deal with and why all these things that we talk about are important is that the true concern we have is the protection of our individual liberty. If we have our liberty, then I am convinced that we will have peace, because the individual will be responsible, not the state. The state will be held in check, and the individual will be sovereign. Under those circumstances, if the state gets out of hand and decides they want to do something, they can't do it under a free society and the individual sovereign. And besides, what you need then is sound money. And if you have sound money and the government wants to pursue welfare, corporatism, or warfare, how are they going to do it? Well, they could tax the people, and they can do that for a while, but the tax would be so high. Can you imagine what the taxes would be this year if they decided they had to balance the budget? We'd had to raise nearly $2 trillion this year. The people would have rebelled. That's one reason why I have a bill in that would repeal withholding taxes. I think if everybody had to write a check every month, there would be a good, healthy rebellion in this country. But we need a facilitator, and that to me is gold. And if you have free markets, and then you have peace because they can't fight the wars, you're going to have prosperity. Ultimately, no matter how long and how many years they seem to get away with running up deficits, running up borrowing and spending and inflating, eventually an empire comes to an end because you cannot do it. You have to pay it. Any individual or any country that lives beyond its means will always have to live beneath its means. And right now we are experiencing that. It didn't just start a year ago. It probably started 10 years ago that people's standard of living was really going down. But it's going down wholesale now. And more than 20% of the American people are suffering. And there's a big argument, are we in a bad recession, in a depression, or whatever? Well, let me tell you, the people who are suffering are in a depression. And there's reason that they should be concerned. And there's reason for the anger that we're witnessing at the tea parties. And that is a healthy sign. And the best thing is people are angry. They're sometimes confused about their anger, but they're not confused about where they're looking to put the blame. And it's up in Washington, D.C., and that's healthy. But the whole idea that our country needs some changes, that has become self-evident. Everybody realizes it, and yet there is still a lot of concern. I think everybody's angry, but one half are probably angry because they're getting worried about the government delivering, and they're upset with the government. The other half are sick and tired of paying it, and that battle has not been settled, but they are very, very, very concerned. But the very good thing that has happened here in the last 2 years is that government's credibility is crashing. I'd sell on that. There's been way too much trust in the government. That is the moral hazard of the many, many centuries. Trust in the government's here to take care of you, and the government will help you. They will take care of the safety net. They will take care of your deposits, and we will fight your battles overseas. We'll kill them all over there so they don't come over here and kill us. On and on. They're going to scare everybody to death to try to argue the reason why you have to have big government. And you really don't. What we need is more faith, more confidence, and a better understanding of what individual liberty is all about.